My ex showed up at my baby shower claiming he was the real father, and when I told him to leave, my family turned on me instead of supporting me. I'm 26F and I'm 7 months pregnant with my first baby. My fiancé Derek is 28M and we've been together for 2 years, engaged for 6 months. We're both really excited about becoming parents, even though it's happening a bit faster than we originally planned. We got pregnant about 3 months into the engagement, which wasn't ideal timing, but we're making it work and honestly we're happy about it. My ex-boyfriend Trevor is 27M. We dated for 3 years and broke up about 2.5 years ago. The breakup was really messy. He cheated on me with a girl from his gym and I found out when she messaged me on Instagram with screenshots of their texts. It was humiliating. We had mutual friends and a whole shared social circle and everyone knew what happened. I was devastated for months. After we broke up, Trevor tried to get back together multiple times. He'd show up at my apartment, send long apologetic texts, leave voicemails crying. I blocked him on everything eventually because I needed to move on. I started dating Derek about 6 months after the breakup and I've been happy. Really genuinely happy in a way I never was with Trevor. Trevor and I have a few mutual friends still, but we don't run in the same circles anymore. I haven't seen him in person in over a year. He's not on social media much, so I have no idea what he's been up to, and honestly I don't care. My baby shower was this past Saturday. My mom and my sister threw it for me at my mom's house. It was really nice. About 40 people, mostly family, and some close friends. Derek's family was there too. We did games, opened presents, ate food. Everything was going great. I was opening gifts in the living room with everyone gathered around when the doorbell rang. My sister went to answer it and I heard her say, "What are you doing here?" in this shocked voice. I looked up and Trevor was standing in the doorway. He looked rough. Like he'd lost weight and wasn't sleeping. He walked into the living room and everyone just went silent. Derek stood up immediately and asked what was going on. Trevor looked right at me and said, "We need to talk. Right now. It's important." I told him to leave. That this was my baby shower and he wasn't invited. He said he wasn't leaving until we talked. Derek started walking toward him and Trevor held up his hands and said, "I'm not here to cause problems. I just need 5 minutes with her. Please." My mom of all people said maybe I should just hear him out so he'll leave. I was shocked, but I didn't want to make a scene in front of everyone, so I said fine. We can talk outside. Derek said he was coming too. Trevor said it needed to be private. Derek said absolutely not. We ended up going out to the backyard, just the 3 of us. Trevor was fidgeting and nervous. He looked at Derek and then at me and said, "I think I might be the father." I just stared at him. Derek said, "What the hell are you talking about?" Trevor said that he and I slept together right before I started dating Derek and he'd been doing the math and the timing lined up. That the baby might be his. Here's the thing. Trevor and I did not sleep together after we broke up. Not once. Not ever. The last time we had sex was like 2 weeks before I found out he was cheating. I looked at him and said, "You're insane. We haven't slept together in over 2 years. This is Derek's baby." Trevor insisted we'd hooked up one night about 9 months ago when we supposedly ran into each other somewhere. That I'd been drinking and we ended up together. I told him that never happened. He said I might not remember because I was drunk. I said I would definitely remember sleeping with my cheating ex and it never happened. I pointed out that I'd been with Derek for over 1.5 years at that point. That I've never cheated on him. That whatever math Trevor thought he was doing was completely wrong because we haven't been anywhere near each other. Derek told him to get out before he called the cops. Trevor started getting emotional, saying he had a right to know if this was his kid. That he'd made mistakes but he deserved to be a father if the baby was his. I told him again that the baby wasn't his and he needed to leave. My mom came outside and asked what was happening. Trevor turned to her and said, "Did she tell you we hooked up about 9 months ago?" My mom looked at me confused. I said no, we absolutely did not. Trevor said I was lying because I didn't want to admit I cheated on Derek. I was furious. I told Trevor he was delusional and making up stories. That I'd never cheated on Derek and I hadn't touched Trevor since we broke up over 2 years ago. Derek told him to get the fuck out or he'd make him leave. Trevor said fine, but he was going to demand a paternity test once the baby was born. He left and we went back inside. The whole party was awkward after that. People were whispering. My aunt asked me privately if what Trevor said was true. I said absolutely not. She said it was strange that he'd show up and make such a specific claim if it wasn't true. I couldn't believe she was doubting me. The party ended pretty quickly after that. People made excuses to leave early. Once everyone was gone, my mom sat me down with my sister and asked me point blank if I'd slept with Trevor. I said no. She said she believed me but wanted to make sure. I was hurt that she even had to ask. Then my sister said something that made my blood boil. She said, "I mean, you did have that wild phase after the breakup. You were going out a lot. Maybe something happened and you don't remember?" I told her she was out of her mind. That I'd remember sleeping with my ex. She said she was just saying maybe I'd had too much to drink one night and it happened. I left my mom's house upset. Derek and I went home and he was quiet the whole drive. When we got home I asked him if he believed me. He said of course he did. But he also said Trevor showing up like that was weird. That people don't usually make claims like that unless there's some truth to it. I asked if he was saying he thought I cheated. He said no, but maybe I should just agree to the paternity test to shut Trevor up. I was stunned. I told him the baby is his and I'm not entertaining Trevor's delusions by agreeing to a test. Derek said it would just give us peace of mind. I said I don't need peace of mind because I know who the father is. We fought about it and I ended up sleeping in the guest room. Since Saturday my phone has been blowing up. Trevor has been texting from a new number saying he deserves to know the truth. My mom called saying maybe I should just do the paternity test to clear things up. My sister sent me articles about people who black out drunk and don't remember things. Derek's mom called and asked if there was any possibility the baby wasn't Derek's. I feel like I'm going insane. I did not cheat on Derek. I did not sleep with Trevor after we broke up. The baby is 100% Derek's. But everyone is acting like I'm the one being unreasonable by not wanting to do a paternity test. My best friend is the only person fully on my side. She said Trevor is clearly having some kind of mental breakdown and my family is being ridiculous. But even she said maybe I should just do the test to make all this go away. I'm 7 months pregnant, my baby shower was ruined, my family doesn't believe me, and my fiancé is questioning if he's the father. I don't know what to do. Am I wrong for refusing the paternity test? Should I just do it to shut everyone up even though I know what the result will be? Update 2 weeks later. A lot has happened since my original post and I'm honestly still processing all of it. Thank you to everyone who commented. Most people said I should just do the paternity test to shut Trevor up and prove everyone wrong. Some people said I was being stubborn by refusing. I've thought about it a lot. The day after I posted, Trevor showed up at my work. I work at a dental office as a receptionist and he came in pretending to be a patient. When I came to the front desk to check someone and he was standing there, I told him to leave immediately or I'd call security. He said he just wanted to talk. I told the office manager and she had him escorted out. She asked if I wanted to file a police report. I said not yet, but if he showed up again I would. That same night Derek and I had another big fight about the paternity test. He kept saying it would just make everything easier if we knew for sure. I said we do know for sure. He said if I had nothing to hide I should just do it. That comment made me so angry. I asked him if he actually believed I cheated. He said he didn't know what to believe anymore. That Trevor showing up and being so insistent was making him doubt things. I asked him when he thought I would have even had time to cheat. We've been together constantly for 2 years. He said maybe early on when we were first dating. I reminded him that Trevor claimed 9 months ago, which was over a year into our relationship, that I'd been living with Derek by that point. That the whole timeline Trevor was suggesting was impossible. He just kept saying a paternity test would clear it all up. I told him if he doesn't trust me then we have bigger problems than a paternity test. He slept on the couch that night. The next day my mom called and asked me to come over. When I got there my sister was already there along with my aunt. They sat me down for what was basically an intervention. My mom said they were worried about me, that I was being defensive and it was making them think I had something to hide. My sister said she'd been talking to some of our mutual friends who remembered me being really drunk at bars during my wild phase after Trevor. I was furious. I asked what wild phase. I went out with friends a few times after the breakup like any normal person would. I wasn't blacking out drunk sleeping with my ex. My aunt said Trevor had reached out to her on Facebook. That he told her he had proof we'd slept together about 9 months ago. I asked what proof. She said text messages between us. I demanded to see them. My aunt pulled up Facebook and showed me. Trevor had sent her screenshots of text conversations allegedly from 9 months ago. They looked like texts between me and him but I'd never sent those messages. The text showed conversations about meeting up, making plans to see each other, flirting. Messages that supposedly happened in February of this year when I was definitely not talking to Trevor at all. I looked closer and realized they were fake. The font was slightly off and some of the message bubbles were weird sizes. The timestamps didn't match up with how iMessage actually displays time. I told my aunt these were photoshopped. She said they looked real to her. I couldn't believe my own family was believing Trevor over me based on obviously fake screenshots. I pointed out that in February I was living with Derek and we were literally together almost every evening. That I had no gaps in my time where I could have been secretly meeting up with Trevor. My sister said maybe I was sneaking out or lying about working late. I left my mom's house and didn't talk to any of them for several days. Derek's family started getting involved. His mom called and said she wanted to talk to me. We met for coffee and she was actually really kind about it. She said she believed me but that Derek was struggling with the situation. That he'd been looking forward to being a father and now he was scared. She said she thought I should do the paternity test not because she thought I cheated but because it would help Derek feel secure. I broke down crying. I told her I didn't understand why everyone needed proof when I was telling them the truth. She said sometimes when people are scared they need concrete evidence to feel better. That it wasn't about not trusting me, it was about eliminating doubt. I thought about it for a couple days. Then I talked to my best friend and she said something that stuck with me. She said even if I'm right and the test proves Derek is the father, the fact that he didn't believe me without the test has probably damaged our relationship. She asked if I could forgive him for doubting me. I didn't have an answer. I decided to agree to the paternity test. Not because I think there's any doubt but because I'm exhausted from fighting everyone. I told Derek I'd do it but that we needed couples counseling because his lack of trust in me has hurt our relationship. He agreed immediately. He seemed relieved. I made an appointment with my OB to discuss prenatal paternity testing. She explained the options and the risks. There's a non-invasive test that uses my blood and Derek's DNA that's safe for the baby. We scheduled it for this week. I also filed a police report about Trevor. The showing up at my work was the final straw. The officer said I should document everything and consider a restraining order. I'm working on that now. Trevor somehow found out I'd agreed to the test. He texted me saying he was glad I was finally being honest and that he was looking forward to being a father. I didn't respond. My lawyer sent him a cease and desist letter telling him to stop contacting me. My mom called to apologize. She said she'd been thinking about everything and realized she should have believed me from the start. That she let Trevor's manipulative behavior and fake evidence make her doubt her own daughter. I appreciated the apology but I told her I needed time before I could fully forgive her. My sister hasn't apologized. She still thinks I'm overreacting and that everyone was just being cautious. We haven't spoken since the intervention. So that's where things are now. Paternity test is scheduled. Restraining order is in progress. Couples counseling starts next week. My relationship with my family is damaged. Derek and I are in a weird place. And I'm 7.5 months pregnant dealing with all of this stress. The test results will take about a week once we do the test. Everyone keeps telling me I'll feel better once we have proof. But honestly, I just feel hurt that proof was needed at all. Update 2 to 6 weeks later. I'm writing this from the hospital. I had my baby girl 3 days ago. She's healthy and perfect and I'm completely in love with her. Her name is Maya. But the past 6 weeks leading up to her birth have been absolutely insane and I need to get it all out. The paternity test results came back 4 weeks ago. Derek is the father. Obviously. Like I'd been saying the entire time. When I got the results I didn't feel relieved or vindicated. I just felt angry. Angry that we'd wasted time and money on a test I knew the answer to. Angry that my family and fiancé didn't believe me without scientific proof. I showed the results to Derek first. He started crying and apologizing. Said he was so sorry for doubting me. That he'd been scared and let Trevor's manipulation get into his head. I told him I appreciated the apology but I wasn't ready to forgive him yet. That his lack of trust had really hurt me and we needed to work through it in counseling. I sent a copy of the results to my mom and my sister. My mom called immediately saying she was so relieved and sorry for everything. I told her the same thing I told Derek. That I needed time. My sister texted saying, see, everything worked out fine. Like the past month of my family doubting me was no big deal. I didn't respond. The real drama started when I had to send the results to Trevor. My lawyer advised that we send them via certified mail with a letter reiterating that he needs to stop all contact. Trevor received the results and lost it. He started calling me from different numbers. Sending emails. He even showed up at my apartment building but security turned him away. He posted on Facebook saying the test results were fake. That I'd somehow manipulated them. That he knew the baby was his and I was keeping his child from him. Multiple people commented telling him to get help. Some of our old mutual friends commented saying he needed to move on. His own sister commented telling him to stop. I got the restraining order approved. Trevor violated it within 2 days by texting me from yet another new number. I reported it and he was arrested. He spent a night in jail and was released with a warning. That seemed to calm him down for a bit. Derek and I started couples counseling. The therapist has been really helpful. She's helping Derek understand why his doubt was so damaging. He's been genuinely trying to make things up to me. Doing extra around the house, going to all my doctor appointments, being really attentive. But I'm still struggling to get past the hurt. The therapist asked me if I could see myself marrying Derek after everything that happened. I said I didn't know. She asked what would need to happen for me to feel secure in the relationship again. I couldn't answer that either. 2 weeks ago Trevor's mom called me. I almost didn't answer but I was curious what she wanted. She apologized for her son's behavior. Said he'd been struggling with mental health issues for the past year. That he'd become obsessed with the idea of having a family after we broke up. She said he'd been in therapy but stopped going a few months ago. She asked me not to press charges if he violated the restraining order again because he was sick. I told her I sympathized but I had to protect myself and my baby. That Trevor's mental health wasn't my responsibility. She understood but said she wanted me to know he wasn't a bad person, just a troubled one. I appreciated her calling but it didn't change anything. My due date came and went. I went into labor 4 days late at like 3 in the morning. Derek drove me to the hospital and was amazing during the whole birth. He held my hand, coached me through contractions, cried when Maya was born. In those moments it felt like we were okay. Like we could get past everything. But then after Maya was born, when we were alone in the hospital room, he said something that really bothered me. He said he was glad we did the paternity test because now he could bond with her without any doubts. I just looked at him. I said he should have been able to bond with her without needing a test to prove she was his. He said he knew but now it was official and he could fully relax. That comment has been eating at me. The fact that he needed scientific proof to fully accept his own daughter. What does that say about our relationship? About his trust in me? My mom came to visit in the hospital. She brought flowers and a stuffed animal for Maya. She held her and cried and said she was so sorry for how everything went down. That she should have believed me from the start. I told her I forgave her but things felt different between us now. She said she understood and would do whatever it took to rebuild my trust. My sister hasn't visited yet. She texted congratulations but that's it. I don't know if I even want her to visit honestly. Trevor sent flowers to the hospital. The card said congratulations on your beautiful daughter. I'm sorry for everything. I was immediately unsettled by how he knew which hospital I was at and that I'd already given birth. Had someone told him? Was he monitoring my social media somehow even though I'd blocked him? The nurses asked if I wanted them to keep the flowers or throw them out. I told them to donate them to another patient. I didn't want anything from him. I also made a note to mention it to the police. So that's where things are now. I have a beautiful healthy baby girl. Derek is trying to be a good partner and father. My family is trying to make amends. Trevor is hopefully getting the help he needs. But I'm struggling with the fact that everyone doubted me and I had to prove my own faithfulness with a paternity test. My best friend asked me yesterday if I'm going to marry Derek. I told her I honestly don't know. She said that's probably my answer right there. That if I have to think about it this hard maybe he's not the right person. I don't know what I'm going to do. For now I'm just focusing on Maya and recovering from birth. The relationship stuff can wait. Final update 4 months later. Maya is 4 months old now and she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's sleeping better, smiling all the time, just started laughing. Being her mom is everything I hoped it would be. I'm writing this final update because people have been messaging asking what happened with Derek and my family. The answer is complicated. Derek and I are still together but we're not engaged anymore. I gave him the ring back about 6 weeks after Maya was born. I told him I needed to figure out if I actually wanted to marry him or if I was just staying because we have a baby together. He was devastated but understood. We're still living together and co-parenting. We're still in couples therapy. Some days are good and feel like old times. Other days I look at him and remember how he doubted me and I feel this wall go up. The therapist says I'm still processing the betrayal and that's normal. Last week Derek asked if I'd thought any more about the engagement. I told him honestly that I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust him again. That him needing a paternity test to believe our daughter was his did permanent damage. He started crying and said he'd spend the rest of his life making it up to me if I'd let him. I told him I need more time. He said he'd wait as long as it takes. But I don't know if time will actually fix this. My best friend says some things can't be unforgiven and maybe this is one of them. My therapist says only I can decide what I can live with. My relationship with my mom has improved. She's been coming over regularly to help with Maya. She's been really respectful of my boundaries and hasn't pushed me to talk about things I'm not ready to discuss. She brings dinner once a week and does laundry and just tries to be helpful without being intrusive. I appreciate the effort even though I'm still hurt. My sister and I barely talk. She called a few weeks ago and said she didn't understand why I was still upset. That everyone was just being careful and I should get over it. I told her until she understands why what she did was hurtful, we don't have much to talk about. She said I was holding grudges. I hung up on her. My aunt sent me a long apology text last month. Said she realized she'd been manipulated by Trevor and felt terrible about it. I accepted her apology but told her we needed to rebuild trust slowly. She understood. Trevor violated the restraining order one more time about 2 months ago. He showed up at a park where I was with Maya. Someone must have told him where we'd be. He didn't approach us but stood watching from across the playground. I called the police immediately. He was arrested again and this time he spent a week in jail. His mom called me afterward begging me to drop the charges. Said the jail time had scared him straight and he was back in therapy and on medication. I told her I'd consider it if he agreed to extended therapy and stayed out of my life permanently. He agreed through his lawyer. The charges were reduced and he's on probation now. I haven't heard from him since. His mom sends me occasional updates that he's doing better. That he has a job now and is actually taking his mental health seriously. I'm glad he's getting help but I don't want any direct contact with him ever again. Derek's family has been supportive. His mom comes over all the time to see Maya and has never once brought up the paternity test drama. She just treats Maya like the precious granddaughter she is. I appreciate that Derek's family believed me more than my own did. Someone asked in a message if I regret having Maya in the middle of all this chaos. The answer is absolutely not. She's perfect and I love her more than anything. But I do wonder sometimes what my life would look like if the shower incident had never happened. If Derek had just trusted me. If my family had believed me. Would we be married now? Would we be happier? My therapist says it's pointless to think about what ifs. That this is the situation I'm in and I need to decide how to move forward from here. She's right, but it's hard not to wonder. I'm back at work part-time now. The dental office I work at has been amazing about giving me flexible hours. It's good to be around adults and have something to focus on besides baby care and relationship drama. Financially things are tight. Derek and I had been saving for a wedding, but we put all that money toward baby expenses instead. We're making it work, but it's stressful. My mom has been helping with money here and there, which I appreciate but also hate needing. I joined a new moms group at the community center. It's been really nice to be around other women going through similar challenges. None of them have the crazy baby daddy drama I have, but they're all struggling with the adjustment to motherhood. It helps to not feel alone. One of the moms in the group asked me last week if I was married. I said no, I have a partner but we're not married. She asked if we were planning to get married. I said maybe someday but we're figuring things out. She said she could tell there was a story there but didn't push. I appreciated that. The truth is I don't know if Derek and I will make it long term. Some days I think we can work through this and come out stronger. Other days I think about what it would be like to co-parent separately and start over with someone who trusts me completely from the beginning. My best friend says I should leave him. That anyone who needs a paternity test to believe their partner doesn't deserve to be with them. But she's also never been in a long-term relationship with a kid involved, so it's easy for her to say. My mom thinks I should stay with him. That he made one mistake out of fear and everyone deserves a second chance. But she also destroyed my trust during all of this, so I take her advice with a grain of salt. I'm trying to just take things one day at a time. Focus on being a good mom to Maya. Figure out my own feelings without pressure from anyone else. Derek is trying really hard and I see that. But I don't know if trying is enough to overcome what happened. Last night I was feeding Maya at 2 in the morning and Derek came out to sit with us. He asked what I was thinking about. I told him honestly that I was thinking about whether I want to spend the rest of my life with someone who didn't believe me when it mattered most. He said that's fair and he thinks about the same thing. About whether he'll ever be able to fully make up for what he did. We sat there in the dark with our baby girl between us and I realized we're both stuck in this weird limbo. Both of us damaged by what happened. Both of us trying to figure out if love is enough when trust is broken. I don't have a neat ending for this story. We're not back together and happy. We're not broken up and co-parenting separately. We're just existing in this in-between space trying to figure out what comes next. Maya is growing and thriving regardless of our drama. She doesn't know that her dad once doubted she was his. She doesn't know her family turned on her mom. She just knows she's loved and cared for. That's what matters most. So that's the final update. No resolution really. Just life continuing to be messy and complicated. For anyone going through something similar, I don't have advice because I'm still figuring it out myself. I guess just trust your gut and prioritize your kid above everything else. This account is done now. Thanks for following along. My best friend planned a joint birthday party with me but turned it into her engagement announcement and expected me to pay for the venue and decorations. I'm 28F and my best friend Keely is also 28F. We've been close since high school, and our birthdays are only 3 days apart. Hers is May 12th and mine is May 15th. For the past few years, we've done joint birthday celebrations because it's easier and more fun to have one bigger party instead of 2 smaller ones. We usually split the costs down the middle and invite our combined friend groups. It's always worked out fine. This year, Keely texted me in early March saying she wanted to do something extra special for our birthdays since we're both turning 28 and it's our last year before 30 starts looming. I thought that was a little dramatic, but I was into it. She said she'd been looking at venues and found this really nice event space downtown that could fit about 80 people. She sent me pictures and it looked beautiful. String lights, exposed brick, a private bar area, the whole thing. I asked how much it would cost and she said the venue rental was $1,200 plus we'd need to cover decorations, a bartender, and some food. She estimated it would be around $2,500 total if we kept it simple. I did the math in my head and realized my half would be $1,250, which was way more than I'd ever spent on a birthday party, but she seemed so excited that I didn't want to be the one to shut it down. I told her it was more than I usually spend, but if we were really doing something special, I could make it work. She said, perfect, I'll book it and we can figure out all the details later. I assumed we'd sit down together and plan everything, but she just went ahead and put down the deposit. Over the next few weeks, Keely kept sending me ideas for decorations. She wanted a specific color scheme, rose gold and white, which I thought was pretty but also very her and not really me. I mentioned maybe adding some other colors to make it feel more balanced and she said, trust me, it's going to look amazing, just let me handle the aesthetic. I was fine with that because honestly, planning parties stresses me out and Keely's always been good at that kind of thing. She's very detail-oriented and has a good eye for design, so I just let her take the lead and figured I'd help with whatever she needed. In mid-April, about a month before the party, Keely asked me to meet her for lunch. When I got there, she had this huge binder full of printouts and inspiration photos. She walked me through everything she'd planned, the decorations, the food menu, the timeline for the night, even a playlist. It all looked gorgeous, but it also looked really elaborate. I asked her how much everything was going to cost and she said she'd been keeping a running total and we were at about $3,600. My stomach dropped. That was way more than the original estimate. I said, wait, I thought we said $2,500 max. And she waved her hand and said, I know, but I found some upgrades that were totally worth it. Don't worry, it's going to be incredible. I told her I couldn't afford $1,800 for a birthday party. That was almost a month's rent for me. She looked annoyed and said, it's not just a birthday party, it's a milestone. We're celebrating a whole year of life. You can't put a price on that. I said I literally could put a price on it and my price was around $1,250 like we'd originally agreed. She sighed and said, fine, I'll see if I can cut some stuff, but I'm not compromising on the important things. I asked what the important things were and she rattled off the centerpieces, the dessert table, and the custom cocktail napkins with our names on them. I didn't even know we were getting custom napkins. I left that lunch feeling uneasy but I didn't push back harder because Keely seemed so invested. I figured she'd trim the budget like she said and it would be fine. 2 weeks before the party, Keely sent me a Venmo request for $1,900. I stared at it for a full minute. That was $650 more than I'd even agreed to with the inflated budget. I texted her immediately asking why it was so much and she said she'd had to add a few last-minute things but it was all necessary upgrades. I called her and said I couldn't pay that much. She said, are you serious right now? The party is in 2 weeks. Everything's already ordered. What do you want me to do? I said I wanted her to stick to the budget we'd agreed on. She said the budget changed because she wanted it to be perfect and I was being cheap. That stung. I'm not cheap. I'm just not in a financial position to drop close to $2,000 on a party. I told her the most I could contribute was $1,250 and she'd have to figure out the rest. She said, so you're just going to let me cover the difference because you can't be bothered to invest in our friendship? I was so mad I almost hung up. I told her that wasn't fair and she knew it. She said, fine, whatever, I'll deal with it, and hung up on me. I sent her $1,250 via Venmo with a note that said, this is what we originally agreed on. I can't do more than this. She didn't respond. The week leading up to the party was tense. Keely barely texted me except to send logistical info like what time to show up and where to park. I tried calling her twice to talk things out and she didn't answer. I thought maybe we'd clear the air at the party and things would go back to normal. The night of the party, I showed up at the venue about an hour early like Keely had asked. She was already there directing a team of people setting up decorations. The place looked stunning. I'll give her that. Rose gold balloons everywhere, beautiful floral arrangements on every table, a dessert table that looked like it belonged at a wedding, custom napkins with our initials in gold script. I walked over to help and she barely acknowledged me. She just handed me a box of party favors and told me to put one at each seat. I did what she asked and tried to make small talk but she was clearly still upset. Guests started arriving around 7 p.m. and the party kicked off. Everyone was complimenting the decorations and the setup. A few people made comments like, wow, this looks like a wedding, or this is so fancy for a birthday, and I just laughed it off. I thought maybe Keely had just gone overboard trying to make it special. A bunch of people came up to me and said things like, you guys went all out, and I just smiled and said, yeah, Keely did an amazing job, because she really had, even if the budget fight had been awful. Around 8:30 p.m., Keely clinked a glass to get everyone's attention. I thought she was going to do a toast or maybe a joint birthday speech, but instead she said, thank you all so much for coming to celebrate with us tonight, but I have some exciting news I want to share. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what she was about to say. She reached into her purse and pulled out her hand with a ring on it, a big, sparkly engagement ring. She said, Evan proposed a few weeks ago and I wanted to share this moment with all of you. We're getting married. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Everyone rushed over to congratulate her and look at the ring. I just stood there in shock. She'd turned our joint birthday party into her engagement announcement. I felt sick. This whole thing suddenly made sense. The rose gold and white color scheme, the elaborate decorations, the dessert table that looked like it belonged at a wedding, the fancy setup. She hadn't been planning a birthday party. She'd been planning an engagement party and just slapped my name on it so I'd help pay for it. I waited until the crowd around her died down and then I pulled her aside. I said, did you plan this? Was this whole party actually for your engagement? She looked at me like I was being ridiculous and said, no, it's still our birthday party. I just thought it would be fun to announce the engagement here since everyone we love was already in one place. I said, Keely, you made me pay $1,250 for what is essentially your engagement party. She said, that's not true. It's a dual-purpose event. You're being really selfish right now. Can't you just be happy for me? I told her I would be happy for her if she hadn't deceived me into funding her engagement celebration. She said I was making everything about me and ruining her special moment. I said she'd already ruined our birthday by turning it into something else entirely. She told me I needed to leave if I was going to have that attitude. I said fine and I left. I didn't even say goodbye to anyone. I just grabbed my coat and walked out. The next day, my phone was blowing up. Keely had apparently told everyone that I'd gotten jealous of her engagement and caused a scene at the party. Multiple people texted me asking what happened and saying they couldn't believe I'd reacted that way. A few of them said I should apologize. I tried to explain my side to a couple of mutual friends. One of them, Brooke, said she understood why I was upset but that I should have waited until after the party to confront Keely. Another friend, Aisha, said she thought it was weird that Keely announced her engagement at our birthday party but that I probably overreacted by leaving. No one seemed to understand that the issue wasn't the engagement itself. It was the fact that Keely had essentially tricked me into paying for her engagement party. A few days later, Keely texted me saying, I can't believe you're still mad about this. It was supposed to be a beautiful night and you ruined it. I think we need some space. I didn't respond. It's been 3 weeks now and we haven't spoken. Mutual friends keep trying to get us to talk it out but I don't even know what I'd say. I feel betrayed and used, and she seems to think I'm the one who did something wrong. My sister thinks I should let it go because losing a friendship over a party isn't worth it. My roommate thinks Keely was completely out of line and I should demand my money back. I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't necessarily want my money back. I just want Keely to acknowledge what she did and apologize. But based on everything she said, I don't think that's going to happen. She genuinely seems to believe she did nothing wrong. So, am I overreacting? Should I have just been happy for her and let it go? Or was I right to be upset? Update, 5 weeks later. I wasn't sure if I'd update this, but things have gotten messy enough that I feel like I need to. About a week after my original post, Keely's fiancé Evan reached out to me. I'd met him a few times but we'd never really talked one-on-one. He sent me a text saying, hey, can we grab coffee? I want to talk about what happened at the party. I was hesitant because I didn't know whose side he was on, but I was also curious, so I agreed. We met at a coffee shop near my work and he seemed uncomfortable from the start. He said, look, I don't want to get in the middle of your friendship with Keely, but I feel like there's been a misunderstanding. I asked what he meant and he said, Keely told me you were totally on board with the engagement announcement. She said you two had talked about it and you thought it was a great idea. My jaw actually dropped. I said, that's not true. I had no idea she was planning to announce it. She didn't say a word to me. Evan looked confused and said, are you sure? Because she made it sound like you guys had planned the whole thing together. I pulled out my phone and showed him the text thread between me and Keely leading up to the party. There was nothing about an engagement announcement. He read through it and his face changed. He said, this doesn't match what she told me at all. He looked genuinely upset. He said when he'd proposed a few weeks before the party, Keely had immediately started talking about how she wanted to announce it at her party coming up. He'd asked if it was okay to do it at a joint birthday event and she'd told him it was fine because I was cool with it and we'd planned it together. He said she'd even told him she'd been planning the party with the engagement in mind because she knew the proposal was coming soon. He said, I wouldn't have gone along with it if I'd known you didn't know. That's really messed up. I appreciated him saying that, but I also felt even worse knowing Keely had lied to him too. Before we left, Evan said he was going to talk to Keely about it. I told him I didn't want to cause problems in their relationship and he said, if there are problems, it's because she lied, not because you told the truth. 2 days later, Keely called me. She was crying and said, I can't believe you went behind my back and turned Evan against me. I said I didn't go behind her back. He reached out to me, and I just told him the truth. She said, you're trying to ruin my engagement because you're jealous. I was so tired of that accusation. I said, Keely, I'm not jealous. I'm hurt that you used me to pay for your engagement party and then lied to your fiancé about it. She said, I didn't lie. I just didn't think you'd mind. We always share everything. I said sharing expenses for a joint party is different from making me fund your personal celebration without telling me. She said I was being dramatic and that she'd already paid back the difference anyway, so what was the problem? I said, you paid back the difference, and she said, well, no, but I was planning to eventually, which made no sense. I told her if she was planning to pay me back then she must have known what she did was wrong. She didn't have an answer for that. She just said, I thought you'd be happy for me. I thought this was something we could celebrate together, but you've made it all about money. I said it wasn't about the money, it was about the dishonesty. She said she had to go and hung up. A few days after that, Brooke called me. She said, okay, I talked to Keely and I think I understand your side better now. Apparently Keely had admitted to a few of our friends that she'd planned the engagement announcement without telling me, but she was framing it as a spur-of-the-moment decision that she thought I'd be excited about. Brooke said, she's not telling people that she basically designed the whole party around the engagement. I asked how she knew that and Brooke said, because I helped her pick out some of the decorations a few weeks before the party, and she kept talking about how it needed to look engagement appropriate. I didn't think she'd actually go through with using your money for it though. I thought she was just being extra about the birthday thing. Brooke apologized for not believing me initially and said she thought Keely owed me an apology and probably some money. I told her I wasn't holding my breath. About 2 weeks ago, things escalated. Keely posted a long Facebook status about fake friends and how some people can't handle other people's happiness. She didn't name me directly, but it was very clearly about me. She talked about how she'd tried to include someone in her joy and they'd thrown it back in her face. A bunch of people commented with supportive messages. A few mutual friends who didn't know the full story commented things like, "You deserve better," and "Real friends celebrate with you." It made me feel awful. Aisha texted me and said, "I know that post is about you, and I think you should respond and tell your side." I didn't want to air everything out on Facebook, so I didn't, but the post stayed up and more people kept commenting. Then Evan commented. His comment said, "I think there's more to this story than what's being said here. People should get the full context before judging." Keely deleted his comment within an hour and then posted another status saying, "It's sad when even the people closest to you don't support you." I heard from Brooke that Keely and Evan had a huge fight about it. Apparently he told her she needed to take accountability for lying to both of us, and she accused him of taking my side over hers. Brooke said Evan told Keely he wasn't taking sides, he just didn't like being lied to. I felt terrible that their relationship was suffering because of this. I texted Evan and said I was sorry for causing problems. He said, "You didn't cause anything, Keely's choices did, but thanks for checking in." Last week, Keely sent me a long email. It wasn't an apology, it was more of a manifesto about how our friendship had been one-sided for years and how I'd never been truly supportive of her. She brought up random things from years ago, like how I didn't go to her college graduation party, I had COVID, and how I didn't offer to help plan her mom's birthday last year. I didn't know she needed help. She said, "You've always been quietly resentful of me, and this party situation just gave you an excuse to finally show it." She ended the email by saying she thought it was best if we didn't talk anymore and that she'd be removing me from her wedding planning, which I didn't even know I was part of. I read that email 3 times trying to figure out if I was actually the bad guy in all of this. I talked to my therapist about it and she said it sounded like Keely was rewriting history to make herself feel better about what happened. She said sometimes people can't admit they were wrong, so they convince themselves the other person was always the problem. I didn't respond to the email. What would I even say? A few friends have reached out privately to say they think Keely is handling this badly and they support me, but publicly, everyone's still acting like nothing happened. It's created this weird tension in our friend group where people are being nice to both of us but also clearly uncomfortable. I don't know if Keely and I will ever be friends again. Part of me is sad about that because we have so much history, but another part of me is realizing that maybe the friendship wasn't as solid as I thought it was. I haven't gotten my money back. I don't expect to at this point. I'm just trying to move forward and figure out what my social life looks like without her in it. Final update, 4 months later. This is probably my last update because things have settled into a new normal, though not in a way I expected. About 6 weeks after my last update, Evan reached out again. He asked if we could meet up, and this time he sounded really serious. I agreed and we met at the same coffee shop. He told me he and Keely had broken up. I was shocked. He said it wasn't just because of what happened with the party, but that was part of it. He said after everything came out, he started noticing other times when Keely would bend the truth or manipulate situations to get what she wanted. He said he couldn't marry someone he didn't fully trust. He seemed genuinely sad about it, and I felt bad for him. I told him I was sorry things ended that way, and he said, "I'm not. Better to find out now than after the wedding." He also told me that Keely had admitted to him that she'd planned the engagement announcement weeks in advance and had intentionally kept it from me because she knew I'd object to splitting costs for what was essentially her party. He said when he confronted her about it, she'd tried to justify it by saying I owed her for all the time she'd been there for me over the years. That hit me hard. The idea that she'd been keeping some kind of score in our friendship and felt entitled to trick me because of it made me realize how unhealthy things had gotten. Evan said he wanted to pay me back for my portion of the party out of his own pocket since the whole thing had been misrepresented to both of us. I told him that wasn't necessary, but he insisted. He Venmoed me $1,250 a few days later with a note that said, "This should have never been your burden." I didn't hear anything from Keely for about a month after that. Then out of nowhere, she showed up at my apartment. I didn't let her in. We just talked in the hallway. She looked awful, like she hadn't been sleeping. She said she wanted to apologize. She said, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I know I messed up." I didn't say anything. I just waited. She said, "I got so caught up in the engagement and wanting everything to be perfect that I lost sight of our friendship. I shouldn't have used you like that." It felt like a real apology at first, but then she said, I was hoping we could move past this and go back to how things were. That's when I realized she still didn't fully get it. She thought apologizing would just reset everything. I told her I appreciated the apology, but I didn't think we could go back to being close friends. I said what she did broke my trust, and the way she handled it after made it worse. She started crying and said, so that's it? Years of friendship just gone? I said it wasn't gone, but it was different now. I told her I needed space and I wasn't ready to just move on like nothing happened. She nodded and said, I understand, but I could tell she didn't really. Before she left, she said, for what it's worth, Evan and I aren't together anymore. I said I'd heard, and I was sorry. She said, are you though? In this bitter tone. I didn't respond to that. She left and I haven't seen her since. In the weeks after that, a few things happened. Brooke told me Keely had been reaching out to mutual friends trying to get them to convince me to forgive her. Most people were staying out of it, but a couple of friends told me they gently suggested Keely give me space. I also found out through Aisha that Keely had been struggling financially because she'd put deposits down for wedding vendors that she couldn't get refunded after the engagement ended. Apparently she'd asked her parents for help and they'd told her she needed to figure it out herself. I felt a little bad about that, but those were her own choices coming back to her. About a month ago, I ran into Keely at a mutual friend's housewarming party. It was awkward. We said hi and made small talk for maybe 2 minutes, then spent the rest of the night avoiding each other. A few people noticed and it made the whole vibe weird. I ended up leaving early. After that, I decided I needed to just accept that our friendship was over. We're still in the same social circle, so I'll probably see her at events occasionally, but we're not going to be close again, and honestly, I'm okay with that. I've been spending more time with friends who don't have complicated history with Keely, and it's been refreshing. I don't miss the friendship as much as I thought I would. What I actually miss is the version of us from years ago, not the dynamic we'd fallen into. My roommate asked me recently if I regretted how I handled everything, and I said no. I think I could have handled some moments better, like maybe not leaving the party so abruptly, but overall I don't regret standing up for myself. Evan and I are friendly now, not close, but we'll text occasionally. He's doing better and he thanked me for being honest with him even though it complicated things. He said he's glad he found out who Keely really was before they got married. As for the money, Evan paying me back felt like some kind of closure. It wasn't about the money at that point, but getting it back felt like someone acknowledging that what happened wasn't okay. Keely's been pretty quiet on social media lately. I don't check her pages anymore, but friends have mentioned she's been posting less. I don't know what she's up to and I'm trying not to care. This whole situation taught me that some friendships don't survive when you finally push back, and maybe that's okay. For years I went along with whatever Keely wanted because it was easier than causing conflict, but that wasn't actually friendship. It was just me making myself smaller so she could stay comfortable. I'm in a better place now than I was a few months ago. I have my money back. I know where I stand, and I've let go of trying to make Keely understand. Some people just won't see it, and you have to decide if you're okay with that. And I am. AITA for refusing to let my mother-in-law hold my newborn after she announced online that she planned to raise him herself and called me an unfit parent. I'm 27F and I just had my first baby, a son named Reese, 2 weeks ago. My husband Caleb is 29M and we've been together for 4 years, married for 2. His mother Patricia has always been a lot to deal with, but I thought once the baby came she'd settle down and just be a normal grandmother. I was very wrong. For context, Patricia has never really liked me. When Caleb and I first started dating, she made comments about how I wasn't the type she'd pictured for him, whatever that means. She wanted him to date someone from their hometown, someone she already knew, preferably someone from their church. I'm none of those things. I grew up 2 states away, we met at work, and I'm not religious. When we got engaged, Patricia cried, not happy tears. She told Caleb he was making a mistake and that I was going to take him away from his family. We lived 20 minutes from her, so that didn't even make sense. Caleb shut her down and told her she needed to respect his choice. She backed off for a while but she never warmed up to me. When I got pregnant last year, Patricia's behavior shifted. Suddenly she was very interested in my life. She started calling me multiple times a week asking about doctor's appointments, what I was eating, if I was exercising. She'd send me articles about pregnancy and parenting with passive-aggressive subject lines like "thought you should know this" or "important information for first-time moms." I tried to be patient because I figured she was just excited about becoming a grandmother. Caleb said his mom had always been a little controlling but that she meant well. I let a lot of things slide that probably should have been addressed earlier. About halfway through my pregnancy, Patricia started making comments about how she was going to help once the baby arrived. She said things like, "I'll come stay with you for the first few months and I'll take over the night feedings so you can rest." At first I thought she was just offering support, but then she started getting specific. She told me she'd already bought a crib for her house. She said she was planning to take the baby 2 or 3 nights a week so Caleb and I could have our lives back. I told her that was nice, but we weren't planning to do overnight visits for a while, especially while I was breastfeeding. She looked annoyed and said, well, we'll see how you feel when you're exhausted. About 3 months before my due date, Patricia threw me a baby shower. I didn't ask for one, but she insisted. The whole thing was weird. She invited mostly her friends and family, barely any of my people. During the shower, she kept making comments about how she can't wait to have a baby in the house again, and I've been waiting for this for so long. One of her friends said something like, oh Patricia, you're going to be such a hands-on grandma, and Patricia responded with, oh, I'm going to be doing more than that. This baby is going to need me. The way she said it made my stomach turn, but I didn't want to cause a scene. After the shower, I talked to Caleb about it. I told him his mom was being overbearing and I was worried about boundaries once the baby came. He said I was overreacting and that his mom was just excited. He promised he'd talk to her if things got worse, but he didn't think it was a big deal yet. When I went into labor 2 weeks ago, we called Patricia from the hospital. She showed up in the delivery room without asking if it was okay. I was already in active labor and too overwhelmed to deal with it, so I just let her stay. She kept trying to give the nurses instructions and asking the doctor questions like she was the patient. Caleb finally asked her to wait in the waiting room and she got upset, but she left. After Reese was born, Patricia came back in and immediately tried to take him from the nurse. The nurse handed him to me first, which is standard, and Patricia said, well, when do I get to hold my baby? Her baby, not her grandson, her baby. I was too exhausted to process it in the moment, but Caleb noticed. He told her, Mom, this is our baby, you'll get to hold him in a bit. She huffed and sat down. When I finally handed Reese to her about an hour later, she started crying and saying things like, I've been waiting my whole life for this, and he's finally here. She stayed at the hospital for hours, way past visiting hours. The nurses had to ask her to leave multiple times before she finally did. Before she left, she kissed Reese on the head and whispered, I'll see you soon, don't worry, which felt really strange. The next day, while I was still in the hospital, my friend Kira texted me a screenshot Patricia had posted on Facebook. The post had a photo of her holding Reese in the hospital, and the caption said, my beautiful grandson is finally here. I'm so blessed to have this second chance at motherhood. I can't wait to raise him and give him all the love and guidance he deserves. I read it 3 times. Second chance at motherhood? Raise him? I showed Caleb and he looked horrified. He immediately called his mom and asked her what the post meant. She said she was just expressing how excited she was and that he was overreacting. He told her the post made it sound like she was planning to parent our child and she needed to take it down. She refused. She said it was her page and she could post what she wanted. She said if we were going to be sensitive about every little thing, maybe we weren't ready to be parents. Caleb told her that was out of line and hung up. I was panicking. I told Caleb we needed to set boundaries immediately. He agreed and said he'd handle it. But before he could, more family members started reaching out. Caleb's aunt called him and said, your mom told me she's going to be very involved with the baby. That's so nice of her to help you two out. Then Caleb's cousin sent me a message saying, I saw Patricia's post. Is she really going to be raising Reese? That's amazing that you guys are letting her do that. I realized Patricia had been telling people she was going to be the primary caregiver, like we were incompetent and she was stepping in. That night, Patricia showed up at the hospital again with bags of stuff, baby clothes, blankets, bottles, even a car seat. She said, I know you two don't know what you're doing, so I'm here to make sure everything's set up correctly. Caleb told her we had everything we needed and she should go home. She said, I'm not going anywhere. This baby needs someone who knows what they're doing. I was still recovering from delivery and hopped up on pain meds, but I remember feeling this surge of anger. I said, Patricia, we're his parents. We're perfectly capable of taking care of him. She laughed, actually laughed, and said, honey, you can barely take care of yourself. I've seen how you live. This baby deserves better than what you two can provide right now. Caleb lost it. He told her to leave immediately and that she wasn't welcome back until she apologized and took down the Facebook post. She started crying and said he was being cruel and that she was only trying to help. She left, but not before posting another Facebook update about how her son was keeping her away from her grandson and how heartbroken she was. That post got a lot of attention. Family members started calling and texting. Some of them were supportive of us, but a lot of them said we were being too harsh and that Patricia just loves the baby. Caleb's dad called and said Patricia had been crying for hours and maybe we should just let her be involved so she'd calm down. We came home from the hospital 3 days after Reese was born. Patricia tried to come over that first day and Caleb told her no. She showed up anyway. We didn't answer the door. She stood outside for 20 minutes ringing the doorbell and calling both of our phones before finally leaving. Later that day, she posted again on Facebook. This time she wrote, it breaks my heart that my son and his wife think I'm not capable of loving my grandson. I've raised children before. I know what I'm doing. Some people are too proud to accept help, even when they desperately need it. I pray they come to their senses before it's too late. The comments on that post were insane. Her friends were saying things like "you're such a good mother" and "they'll realize they need you soon enough." A few people even said I was probably dealing with postpartum issues and didn't know what I was doing. I was furious. I told Caleb we needed to respond publicly or at least tell people the truth. He said he didn't want to air family drama online and that we should just ignore her. I didn't agree, but I respected his decision. 2 days later, Patricia posted a photo of the onesie she'd bought for Reese with the caption, "Can't wait until I get to see my baby boy again. Grandma loves you so much and I'm ready to take care of you whenever you need me." People were commenting asking when she'd get to babysit, and she was responding with things like "soon I hope" and "I'm just waiting for his parents to realize they need me." At this point I was losing my mind. I was exhausted, hormonal, trying to figure out breastfeeding, and dealing with my mother-in-law publicly positioning herself as some kind of savior stepping in to rescue my baby from me. Caleb finally agreed we needed to do something. He sent his mom a text that said, "Mom, your posts are completely inappropriate. We are Reese's parents and we don't need you to raise him. If you can't respect that, you won't have a relationship with him at all. Take down the posts and stop telling people you're going to be his primary caregiver. This is your final warning." She responded, "How dare you speak to me like that? I gave birth to you, I raised you, and this is how you treat me. Fine, I'll stay away, but don't come crawling back when you realize you can't handle it." We thought that was the end of it, but 3 days ago, Patricia posted again. This one was longer. She wrote, "I've been asked by many people to clarify my role in my grandson's life. The truth is, I've been told I'm not allowed to see him because his mother feels threatened by me. I want to make it clear that I have never said anything negative about her. I've only offered my help and experience. I've raised children. I know what works. I'm concerned about my grandson's well-being because I don't believe his parents are equipped to handle the challenges of a newborn. I love that baby more than anything and I will do whatever it takes to make sure he's safe and cared for. I'm praying for wisdom and clarity for all involved." That post went viral in her social circle. We started getting messages from family members we barely talked to. Some were supportive, but most were saying we were being cruel to Patricia and that she just wants to help. Caleb's dad called again and said we were tearing the family apart and we needed to let Patricia come over. I told Caleb I was done. I said Patricia is not coming near Reese until she publicly admits she's not his parent and stops undermining us. Caleb agreed. Yesterday, Patricia showed up at our house again, this time with Caleb's dad. They rang the doorbell and when we didn't answer, his dad yelled through the door, "We just want to see the baby. Stop being unreasonable." Caleb went outside to talk to them. I stayed inside with Reese. I could hear them arguing. Patricia was crying saying she just wanted to hold her grandson. Caleb told her she'd lost that privilege when she decided to publicly call us unfit parents. She said she never called us unfit. Caleb pulled up her Facebook posts on his phone and read them out loud to her. She said she was just being honest about her concerns and that we were twisting her words. Caleb told her until she deleted every single post, issued a public apology, and agreed to go to family therapy. She wasn't meeting Reese. She said she wasn't doing any of that because she didn't do anything wrong. Caleb told her to leave. She's now posted again saying we're keeping her grandson hostage and that she's exploring her legal options, which I'm assuming means she's looked into grandparents' rights. We live in a state where that's not really a thing unless the parents are proven unfit, but the fact that she's even threatening it is terrifying. Family members are divided. Some think we're right to protect our boundaries. Others think we're being dramatic and that Patricia is just an excited grandma who's expressing herself poorly. Caleb's dad thinks we should just let her come over and she'll calm down once she gets to spend time with the baby. I refuse. I don't trust her. I don't want her around my son, and I don't think she respects us as parents. But I'm also exhausted and second-guessing everything. Part of me wonders if I'm being too harsh, if maybe she really is just excited and doesn't realize how she's coming across. My own mom thinks Patricia sounds unhinged and that we're doing the right thing. My sister thinks we should let her visit under supervision just to keep the peace. I don't know what to do. So, AITA for refusing to let my mother-in-law hold my newborn after she announced online that she planned to raise him herself and called me an unfit parent? Update, 7 weeks later. I wasn't sure I'd update, but enough has happened that I feel like I need to. After my original post, things got worse before they got better. Patricia continued posting on Facebook almost daily. Each post was more unhinged than the last. She posted photos of Caleb as a baby with captions like, "I raised this beautiful boy right. I'll do the same for his son." She shared articles about postpartum depression and tagged me in them with comments like, "This might explain some concerning behavior I've witnessed." She even posted a photo of the nursery she'd set up at her house, complete with a crib, changing table, and rocking chair. The caption said, "Ready for my grandson whenever his parents realize they need a break. Grandma's house is always open." About 2 weeks after my original post, we got a letter in the mail from a lawyer. Patricia had actually consulted someone about grandparents' rights. The letter said she was exploring all legal options to ensure consistent contact with her grandson. It wasn't a formal filing, but it was clearly meant to intimidate us. Caleb was devastated. He'd been trying to give his mom the benefit of the doubt, hoping she'd calm down on her own, but the lawyer letter made him realize how serious this was. We immediately contacted a family lawyer ourselves. Our lawyer told us we were in a good position because we live in a state with very limited grandparents' rights. She said as long as we're married and living together, Patricia would have almost no legal standing, but she also said we needed to document everything, so we started screenshotting every Facebook post, saving every text message, and keeping a log of every time Patricia showed up uninvited. The lawyer also suggested we send Patricia a formal cease and desist letter. We did. It basically said she needed to stop posting about us and Reese on social media, stop showing up at our house uninvited, and stop making false claims that we're unfit parents. If she didn't comply, we'd pursue legal action. Patricia's response was to post the cease and desist letter on Facebook with a caption about how we were threatening her with lawyers for loving her grandson too much. The comments were a mix of people supporting her and people finally starting to see how unhinged she was. One of Caleb's cousins commented, "Patricia, I love you, but this isn't normal. These are legal documents. You shouldn't be posting this online." Patricia deleted the comment and blocked the cousin. Around the same time, my mom came to visit. She stayed with us for a week to help out, and one afternoon while she was there, Patricia showed up again. My mom answered the door. Patricia didn't know who she was at first. She demanded to see Reese and said she had every right to visit her grandson. My mom said, "You need to leave. You're not welcome here." Patricia said, "Who the hell are you?" My mom said, "I'm the baby's other grandmother, the one who actually respects boundaries." Patricia started screaming at her, calling her names, saying she had no right to keep her from her family. My mom shut the door in her face. Patricia stayed outside yelling for almost 10 minutes before a neighbor threatened to call the police. She left, but not before posting on Facebook that I had my mom acting as a guard dog to keep her away from Reese. The breaking point came about 4 weeks after my original post. Patricia made a post that said, "I've been told by multiple concerned family members that my grandson is not being properly cared for. I've seen evidence of neglect and I will not stand by and watch this happen. I'm doing what's necessary to protect him." That post terrified me. She was straight up accusing us of neglect, publicly, with no basis. Caleb called her immediately, screaming, asking what evidence she was talking about. She said she'd heard from sources that the baby was crying all the time and that I looked exhausted and unwell. Caleb said, "He's a newborn. All babies cry. And of course she's exhausted. She just had a baby. That doesn't mean neglect." Patricia said if we were real parents we'd accept help instead of being stubborn. Caleb hung up on her. We contacted our lawyer again. She said the neglect accusation could potentially be grounds for a defamation suit. She drafted a letter threatening legal action if Patricia didn't retract the statement and issue a public apology. We sent it. Patricia didn't retract anything. Instead, she doubled down. She posted that we were using legal threats to silence her and that she was fighting for her grandson's safety. At this point, even some of her closest friends started questioning her. One of them commented, "Patricia, have you actually seen any neglect or are you just upset you can't visit?" Patricia deleted that comment too. Then, something unexpected happened. Caleb's dad called. He said he needed to talk to us in person, alone, without Patricia. We were hesitant but agreed. He came over and he looked awful, tired, defeated. He said, "I need to apologize. I've been enabling your mother for weeks and I didn't realize how bad it had gotten until last night." Apparently Patricia had started talking about calling CPS. She'd told Caleb's dad she was going to report us for neglect so that the state would intervene and she could petition for custody. Caleb's dad said he told her that was insane and that she needed professional help. She'd screamed at him, saying he was choosing us over her. He said he told her he was picking what's real over what's in her head. They'd had a massive fight. She'd locked herself in their bedroom and refused to speak to him. He said, "I love my wife, but she's not well. Something is very wrong, and I don't know how to help her. I just know I can't support what she's doing anymore." He apologized for pressuring us to let her visit. He said he understood why we'd cut her off and that he supported our decision. He also said he'd tried to get Patricia to see a therapist, but she refused. She insisted there was nothing wrong with her and that everyone else was the problem. He said he was at a loss. Before he left, he asked if he could meet Reese. We let him. He held the baby for a while and cried. He said, "I'm so sorry you're going through this. You're good parents. Don't let her make you doubt that." It was the first time anyone from Caleb's side had validated us. It felt like a huge relief. After that conversation, Caleb's dad started being more vocal with the rest of the family. He told them Patricia's behavior was unacceptable and that they needed to stop pressuring us to reconcile. Some family members listened. Others accused him of betraying his wife. About a week and a half ago, Patricia made one final post. It was long, rambling, and honestly pretty incoherent. She talked about how she'd sacrificed everything to raise Caleb, how she'd earned the right to be involved in his son's life, how we were ungrateful and cruel. She ended it by saying she was stepping back but that she'd never stop fighting for Reese. The post got almost no engagement. I think people were finally tired of the drama. A few people commented telling her to seek help. She deleted the whole post a few hours later. Since then, it's been quiet. Patricia hasn't shown up at our house, hasn't posted about us, hasn't sent any messages. Caleb's dad says she's been keeping to herself and barely speaking to anyone. He's still trying to convince her to see someone, but she refuses. We're still keeping our boundaries in place. Patricia is not allowed to meet Reese until she gets professional help and issues a genuine apology. We're not holding our breath. Caleb's relationship with his mom is probably permanently damaged. He's sad about it, but he's also clear that he's choosing his son and me over her dysfunction. He said, I can't fix her, and I'm not going to sacrifice my family trying. Reese is doing great, he's healthy, he's growing, and he's completely unaware of all this chaos. We're figuring out parenthood the same way everyone else does, messy and exhausted and learning as we go. We don't need Patricia's help. A few family members have reached out to apologize for not taking our side earlier. Some have asked if they can visit and meet the baby. We're being selective about who we let in, only people who've shown they can respect our boundaries. I don't know if Patricia will ever change. Part of me hopes she gets help and we can eventually have some kind of civil relationship. But honestly, another part of me is completely fine if we never speak to her again. She showed me exactly who she is when things didn't go her way. For now, we're focused on the three of us, our family. That's what matters right now. Final update, 4 months later. This will probably be my last update because things have reached a kind of resolution, though not one I ever expected. About 6 weeks after my last update, Caleb's dad called. He sounded shaken. He said Patricia had been hospitalized, not for a physical illness. She'd had what he described as a mental health crisis. She'd apparently become convinced that we were hiding Reese from her because something terrible had happened to him. She'd shown up at our house in the middle of the night, banging on the door, screaming that she needed to save the baby. We weren't home. We'd gone to visit my parents for the weekend. Our neighbor called the police. When the officers arrived, Patricia was trying to break into our house through a window. She was hysterical, telling them we'd kidnapped her grandson and she needed to get him back. The police quickly figured out she wasn't making sense. They contacted Caleb's dad, and he met them at our house. He told them about Patricia's recent behavior, the Facebook posts, the legal threats, everything. They took her to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. She was admitted for a 72-hour hold. During that time, she was finally evaluated by actual mental health professionals. Caleb's dad called us while we were still at my parents' house. He was crying. He said the doctors told him Patricia was experiencing some kind of delusional episode, possibly triggered by stress and underlying mental health issues that had never been properly addressed. They said it wasn't uncommon for major life events, like becoming a grandparent, to trigger or worsen certain conditions. They wanted to keep her for further evaluation and start her on medication. Caleb's dad signed off on everything. Caleb was a mess. He felt guilty, even though none of this was his fault. He kept saying, what if she's been sick this whole time and we didn't notice? I reminded him that being mentally ill doesn't excuse her behavior, and that we'd done the right thing by protecting our son. Patricia stayed in the hospital for a week and a half. When she was released, she was on medication and had been set up with ongoing therapy. Caleb's dad said she seemed calmer, but also very subdued. She hadn't asked about Reese at all, which Caleb found both relieving and heartbreaking. About 2 weeks after she got out of the hospital, Caleb's dad asked if he could bring Patricia over to talk. Just talk. No demands to see the baby. Caleb and I discussed it for a long time. I was terrified, but Caleb felt like we owed it to his dad to at least hear her out. We agreed, but we set very strict conditions. The meeting would be at our house. Reese would be upstairs with my mom who was visiting again. Patricia would not be allowed to see him. If she became aggressive or unreasonable, the meeting would end immediately. When they arrived, Patricia looked completely different. She'd lost weight. Her hair was grayer. She looked fragile. She barely made eye contact with us. She sat down on the couch and didn't say anything for a long time. Finally, Caleb's dad prompted her. He said, Patricia, you wanted to say something. She nodded and took a shaky breath. She said, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I'm sorry. She said the doctors told her she'd been experiencing something called grandparent fixation, which apparently isn't an official diagnosis, but it's a pattern they see sometimes. She said she'd become so obsessed with the idea of being a grandmother that she'd lost all sense of reality. She'd convinced herself that Reese needed her in a way that he didn't, and that we were incapable in a way that we weren't. She said, I see now that I was wrong. I don't know why I couldn't see it before, but I was wrong. She started crying, not the manipulative crying from before, but genuine, broken crying. She said, I ruined everything. I know I did, and I don't expect you to forgive me. Caleb asked her about the Facebook posts, the lawyer, the threats. She said she barely remembered some of it, that she'd been in such a distorted headspace that it all felt justified at the time. She said, I thought I was protecting him, but I was really just destroying my relationship with my son. I asked her why she'd called me unfit. She looked at me for the first time and said, I don't know. I think I was jealous. You have what I don't have anymore. A baby to take care of, purpose. I think part of me wanted to replace you, and I justified it by convincing myself you weren't good enough. But you are. I can see that now. It was the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. I didn't know how to respond. Caleb asked her what she wanted from us now. She said, nothing. I don't deserve anything. I just wanted you to know I'm getting help, and I'm going to keep getting help. If someday you decide I can meet Reese, I'll be grateful, but I understand if that never happens. The meeting ended shortly after. Patricia didn't ask to see the baby, didn't try to manipulate us. She just left with Caleb's dad. After they were gone, Caleb and I sat in silence for a long time. I didn't know what to feel. Relief? Sadness? Anger? Over the next few weeks, Caleb's dad gave us updates. Patricia was going to therapy twice a week. She deleted all her social media accounts, not just the posts, the entire accounts. She'd stopped talking about Reese to extended family. She was, according to Caleb's dad, actually trying to get better. About a month ago, Caleb asked me how I felt about letting Patricia meet Reese, not unsupervised, not regularly, just once, to see if she could handle it. I was terrified, but I also knew Caleb needed some kind of closure. I said okay, but only if it was short, at our house, and only if my mom was there as a buffer. We arranged a visit, 30 minutes max. Caleb's dad brought Patricia over. She was visibly nervous. She barely said hello to us. She just looked at Reese from across the room. Caleb asked if she wanted to hold him. She shook her head and said, I don't think I should. Not yet. I just wanted to see him. She stood there for a few minutes, just watching him. Then she said, he's beautiful. You're doing a great job. She didn't cry, didn't make a scene, didn't try to take over. She just looked at him like she was trying to memorize him. After about 15 minutes, she said she needed to go. She thanked us for letting her come and left. Caleb cried after she left. He said, that's the mom I remember. Before all of this, I didn't know what to say. I was glad she'd been respectful, but I also wasn't ready to trust her. Since then, Patricia has visited twice more. Same rules, short visits, no holding the baby, supervised. She's been appropriate every time. She brings small gifts, nothing over the top, a book or a stuffed animal. She doesn't stay long. She doesn't push. Caleb's dad says she's doing better but that she still has bad days, days where she fixates on what she's lost, what she ruined. She's on medication that's helping, but it's not a magic fix. She'll probably be in therapy for a long time. I don't know if Patricia and I will ever have a real relationship. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive her for what she put us through, but I can see she's trying, and for Caleb's sake, I'm willing to keep the door open a crack. Caleb's relationship with his mom is still damaged. They talk on the phone sometimes, but it's surface level. They don't talk about the past. They don't talk about feelings. They just talk about the weather or what he's been watching on TV. It's sad, but it's all they can handle right now. Reese is almost 6 months old now. He's hitting all his milestones. He's happy. He's loved. The chaos from the first few months of his life feels like a different lifetime. We've settled into a routine. We have friends and family who respect our boundaries. We're figuring it out. I still have moments where I'm angry about everything that happened. Angry that my first weeks as a mother were overshadowed by Patricia's breakdown. Angry that we had to deal with legal threats and public humiliation. Angry that Caleb had to choose between his mom and his family. But I also have moments where I feel something close to pity for Patricia. She's a woman who lost herself in an obsession and destroyed her relationships because of it. She's paying the price for that now, and she'll probably keep paying it for the rest of her life. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Patricia will continue to improve and we'll slowly build something that resembles a functional relationship. Maybe she'll relapse and we'll have to cut her off again. I don't have answers. What I do know is that we protected our son when he needed it most. We set boundaries, we enforced them, and we didn't back down, even when it was hard, even when family pressured us, even when we were exhausted and doubting ourselves. We're doing what we can, we're protecting our family, we're figuring it out as we go, and right now, that's enough for me.